Welcome back to Between Two Racks with the Kilo Crew. Today's episode, we're going to do a little breakdown, little history lesson on all the development of our courses. So, let's kick it. So, our curriculum is extremely extensive now, for those of you who don't know. We started our education back in 2016 was our first ever course, right? And that was the 5-day primate training camp. And then one of the things we wanted to discuss today was the development of the courses, because as we've gone along, we've had to readjust and adapt the courses. And I think there's two main drivers. One driver being we kept creating more courses, so then the courses needed to be updated. And then another really big one is also making sure the content we create is applicable for our students. So as the students grew over the years and as we got to know our students better, we adjusted the curriculum accordingly. And I want to kind of go through our courses based on the curriculum and the specialties we have. So obviously we will start with the foundation specialty, and the foundation specialty encompasses the map assessment course, the program design course, the periodization course, and the optimizing strength ratios course. The program design, periodization, and optimizing strength ratios makes up the level 1 of the Kilo certification, and this is something for me that I'm stuck fighting right now, because these courses basically came from the advanced strategies to program design. So we had the 2-day advanced strategies to program design course, and then in 2020 we created these courses online. So they became available. We restructured it to make it better for an online course. But what I'm stuck with is, to me, the map assessment course also needs to be part of the level 1 course. So it's hard.
Yeah, but again, just because we're so systematic with the way we teach and how to create a program, initially, if you don't have any information, if you just follow the program design, it'll be great for, a big majority of the people. So it's almost like another level to do the assessment, and then you get to specialize your program design even more according to your person. But if you're just going to put a blanket statement, if you just follow that one course of program design, you'll make good programs. You're saying that the map assessment needs to be in the level 1, and I'm saying that if you were to only do one course, and because it covers most of people's issues and stuff, if you do the program design, you'll write really good programs, and then you can specialize. And ideally you do the map course also, but the map course is still another level to really upgrade your program design.
Yeah, but I definitely agree. If one course would be changing to where we would put it, I'd definitely put the map into the level 1 bundle, because it is so applicable. So we should talk about the map assessment. So we built the map assessment to be an extremely practical assessment that you can run your clients through on day 1. That is going to directly influence exactly what progressions that they should be using for the big compound lifts and some smaller lifts as well. But we were like, okay, what would we want out of an assessment that is going to directly influence our program design? And then we deconstruct it backwards to create the map assessment, so we can have a direct impact without creating all the fluff that a lot of other assessments create. And then that would tie directly into the program design, like you're saying. And then obviously the periodization and the optimized strength ratios is just the next layer of information for more long-term program and client retention side of things. But yeah, definitely the map assessment would be a really logical progression into the level 1.
Well, it kind of goes back to everything within our education, program design and periodization is the cornerstone of every single course we have within our curriculum. And that's what I think is quite different from a lot of others in the industry is our map assessment course directly influences the programs you're building. So to actually have an assessment course that you're just not, like we've talked about this on the podcast before, you're going through the assessment, but then it doesn't actually change what you're doing in the programming.
It doesn't guide you. Yeah.
Sure.
Like our big example the last time was the length tension tests. Like there's nothing wrong with the length tension tests, but if you do them and you see someone's lacking some level of internal rotation, are you going to say they can't squat because of that? Because there's a very good possibility they can still squat just fine, but just because they're in the length tension test, it doesn't actually impact your program design, your exercise selection choices. Whereas if we go and test the physical squat and their movement competency through that and then bring them through progressions to see where suits that individual best at the time that we're bringing them through it, that is going to lead to direct decisions that we can then implement to then scale their programming from there.
Another big thing I wanted to discuss on the podcast was how, Steph, especially you, because I know this was when we first started creating online courses, how we approach online courses and live courses quite differently in terms of the development of the courses. So when you think back to the advanced strategies, ASPD, everyone knew ASPD level 1, and how that was taught is quite different from how we then had to structure it to become an online course. And a lot of that comes down to delivering the content very clearly. So, because when you're teaching it live, questions come up, you can answer questions. It doesn't need to be so concrete in how you create the course for online.
Most of the online courses always started with like a live course. So I think like just seeing the way people react, like being able to read the crowd and then seeing the questions has definitely like helped you in terms of like then setting up the online course so that you can answer those questions even before people actually have them.
Yeah, I mean, it's always easier to create an online course after the course has been teaching live because you actually in real time see the feedback and the pain point of the students in regards to certain aspects of the course. But the main difference between a live course and online course to me is that the live course, you can be more nuanced. You're explaining concept on the board as you're talking. There's direct interaction with the students. The students might lead a discussion somewhere else, and then somebody brings the discussion towards a different topic as well, but then at the end it all ties in. But there are many different factors that sometimes are personal to the student that and then it leads to the live course having a certain vibe. But in an online course, you can't really allow the course to go any route like this, so you have to be very specific, very targeted with the information. You have to make sure that there's no nuances with what you're saying. You have to make sure that you're straight to the point, like in an organized structure, so that the student can process the information as you're talking about it. But that being said, like although the online courses are usually shorter in time, they're definitely harder to create because of all these obstacles.
Yeah.
And the fact that I'm used to teach a course and using the board to help me explain topics, whereas the online course, I need to make sure I can explain the topic as well, but verbally.
Yeah, but and the one thing about online courses is all of our courses are very systematic. There's definitely a system being taught. But when you're live, you'll see the nuance. You'll hear like, okay, this is what we do, and then someone will ask a question like, oh, but obviously in that situation it'll go a little bit differently. That's not in the online courses. It is a system that unless you understand the underlying principles behind the system, you're not going to see the opportunities for varying away from it. So it's definitely, you have to go into it with an open mind to, all right, what are the underlying principles, so I can then individualize the system based on the needs that's being presented in front of me. But it's definitely it has to be presented very concise, because if it's not, it's just a very confusing topic. So you see a lot of people who create online courses and they could be 72 hours long, and that there's because they're going to just talk on theories and concepts and just give you an overview of things, but in the end of the day you're trying to bring it back down to the system. That's why we try and be as concise as possible with the information delivered, because we're just trying to give you the system, and you from that there can extrapolate what principles are underlying, so then you can make the individual variation changes.
Yeah, like we like to explain the system. Like, so here is the system, here is why, but very concisely. Some theoretical aspect that truly relates to what we're doing, and then reinforce with some resources. This is how you do it, like on a step-by-step perspective. Because at the end of the day, we don't want fluff for the sake of just adding time, and fluff that won't really help the student understand the course more, and that just kind of like dilutes the point of the course. Like at the end of the day, we're catering to personal trainers and coaches. What do personal trainers and coaches do to generate income? They train people. The more people you train, the greater your income, the greater your experience can be, and the greater your baggage in terms of knowledge can be as a coach. So we're trying to do everything we can to simplify the program design and periodization, so that you can actually spend more time coaching people instead of wasting hours and hours and hours going all over the place with your programming. So, but that being said, in order to be great at program design and periodization, you need to understand the why of everything, which I feel we do a good job at explaining. But it's just important for us that we don't lose the student as we're trying to showcase so much information in an online course. Because, I mean, so that's the thing too, like in a live course, it's much easier to, like we were saying earlier, to explain the nuances, to go deeper in the long-term periodization aspect, and explain, okay, now year one was like this, now here is why year two has to be like that, and on and on. But in order to do this effectively, you need to be live, because you need to see how the students are reacting, and you need to be able to be ready for their questions surrounding the long-term aspect of periodization. Whereas if we were to try to attempt the same thing in an online course, we feel that all we would do in the end is confuse the student, and then create paralysis by analysis, because we bombarded them with a lot of questions without allowing them to be able to see the nuances or ask the questions for them to clarify the information. So we always streamline things in the online course. So for the majority of our older students, like the ones that's been there since the beginning, that have done all of our courses live, and then they've retake the courses online, it's always like for the people who struggle a little bit with the live course, they always like the online course, because it allowed them to streamline the information and be more like on a play-by-play perspective with their programming. But at the same time, what's interesting, they always say how much they prefer the live course, because we can go deeper, and there's a little bit more layer that they see that we're not providing with the online course.
Let's be real. The biggest drawback of the online courses is they don't get your trivia questions and the step jokes.
There's that. Yeah. Well, and then there's also like a lack of the practical component.
Yep.
Because, so let's say we're talking about like a fat loss, metabolic stress type of training session. If the student have never been through one, yeah, they can understand the theoretical aspect of it, but going through it, then it allows you to understand like what type of output you need to give, what type of loading we're really looking for. They see how all of the students are struggling and how all of the students are pushing, so it gives them like very tangible feedback on how to apply the theory of the course in the actual gym when they're training people. So I think that's a very known aspect but underrated aspect of being a good coach. So that's why like we're following the trend of the industry. Of course we need to have more online courses, that's what people are asking, but at the end of the day I think it would be a huge mistake if the industry became one of those where it's 100% of like the University of Phoenix of personal training education. I think that would be a mistake in the long run in terms of being a skilled personal trainer.
One of the things that the trainers struggle a lot with is like load selection. So when they're in the gym and they're training, like that's like one big benefit that we can provide for them is like really be like, this is what it should look like, this is what it should feel like. So they should, it's easier for them to then get that same response from their client because they know how hard they need to push them.
But I do find that going forward, when more and more courses go online, people will actually gravitate to doing both because they'll find that's going to be their best learning platform. You do the in-person first or the online first and then vice versa, because you'll take away different things from both experiences. You'll take away the nuance from the live, you'll take away a little bit more systems and step-by-step play from the online. So I do think that will be the long-term thing from the students that like to do everything, that they will actually just double up and do the exact same course in 2 different formats and they'll get the most out of it.
Another advantage of the online is the fact that you can watch
it like,
over and over and over to like truly absorb the information.
And the resource is huge because it's a cheat sheet, the information that once you understand the basics you can go look 2 seconds, all right, I know exactly what I meant to do here. It's great.
I think with our education, like you said it, you do have people that have incredibly long online courses because there's a lot of fluff and fillers, which we could absolutely add fluff and fillers to our classes, but that's not, we're always just looking to deliver the course content directly. And even this week I had a student reach out, a new student to our whole curriculum. Her first purchase was the level 1 course, and she sent an email saying it would be really helpful to see an incline press, to see a dip, to see, and I understand where she's coming from. However, we have a massive amount of free education on our YouTube channel, and I just find that if then we were adding that into our program design, other students who do know it would lessen the value of the course, because we'd just be filling it with time and things just to increase the total duration of the course, and we don't believe in that. We've always believed in being very straightforward and delivering the content, and that's it.
Well, and I always think it's better to come out with 2 or 3 products that are shorter in duration and more concise to a very specific goal than one big thing that's trying to cover like catch-all, because when you're trying to do the catch-all, there's definitely going to be nuance lost, and the systematic side of things is going to be a little bit more muddy. So let's break it down and be really concise and just do 3 or 4 different products. It's going to be the same total duration in the end of the day, but it's going to be much more directed, and when you need to go and review a specific thing, you're not going searching through hours and hours and hours of film to find exactly what you're looking.
Yeah, and it's also finding, like using common sense to find what's worth talking about in a course or not. So for example, coming back to the program design, the online program design course, that's our first course. So talking about program design, so exercise selection, sets and reps, but we don't necessarily explain what is a repetition, what is tempo, what is sets, because they would do in a NASM or ACSM or ISSA course, they're going to, but I mean,
we have a certain level of expectation of what their base
but to us, if we were to do this, we would alienate like 99% of our students we already know that stuff. It's kind of boring. What's the point of it? So I'm not saying we don't have theoretical and definition stuff, but usually when we do add this, we tend to add it in a situation where we assume that maybe half of the students will not be familiar with, so then we throw it in. But to throw definition on everything just for the sake of being thorough with theory, sometimes it's like, come on.
Well, and we live in a time where it's very easy to find out those things. If they're like, if you don't know what tempo is, that's a quick little search on YouTube. You're gonna have plenty of videos.
Yeah, where there's always definitions of things that there's wide degree of variability in the research, like mesocycle, macrocycle, all that there, like that's all over the place depending on the author. So each time that comes up, we do define what that is within the system. So that's a difference. So that you could do, we said 11 online courses, it's probably mentioned in 9 of them. It's going to be explained in each of the 9 because it's very important, because it's different depending on who you're listening to.
And that's always a hard part, is because when we have been, we started with very few courses, but then as we continue to build, even though it's been mentioned in something else, there are certain things where, okay, we need to mention this again, because now it is open to, doesn't necessarily mean you've done the level 1 courses and now you're taking the power specialization course. So there are certain things that do need to be repeated, which is Steph's least favorite thing in the world, to repeat something, but with those online courses, you do need to do it. I know we've discussed our foundation courses, so MAP, program design, periodization, optimizing strength ratios, and then our curriculum moves towards the strength preparation. So this is actually the newest specialty in the curriculum, and within that we have the progressive anatomical adaptation seminar, block seminar, PAB. This is one of those courses that was developed because we saw that our students needed this. So this was only a few years ago that we decided to come out with this course. And again, creating a course takes what you guys do as coaches, turning it into a system, which again, I think people are so used to us doing it that they don't really understand the complexity of actually building an in-depth system to teach someone something.
And that was, it was developed because we saw our students, but also from our experience, like you're saying, it was hard to put into a course, but we know that, you get a new client, most of them can't do all the basic exercises, like especially the primaries, just right off the bat. So you have to know where to start them, and that's the reason why we created that course, is like to take a step back and say, if this person can't do certain primary exercises, well, this is what you can do to really prep, the joint and the body and the movement patterns, so that eventually you can get them to do that. Or we also do the PAB for someone who's been training really, really hard for a while and then have maybe aches and pains, and they need to step back and then focus a little bit more on the remedial type of exercises, and they can do a block like that, and it just gives a break to their body and their joints, and it allows them to recover so that they can go back into the more strength and power type of macros.
Yeah, and then with PAB, we can also link that in with the MAP assessment as well, because if you can use them in combination, it's also gonna set you up to know what needs addressed, where they could be with their current primary movements, and then use the PAB structure to try and expedite the results of either range of motion or any limitations in joint issues, is probably the easiest way to put it. But PAB was a really, really complicated one to build, because that took us a long time.
We started over a few times on that one.
The concept never changed. It was just the ability to make it systematic, that there was no gray areas. It was, all right, this is just go through this system and you're going to achieve the results you want. There's obviously individual differences within the system, but the actual system will work on a very repeatable manner, instead of us just trying to throw different ideas at different issues.
That's the hardest part, because because we are not just creating multiple random courses, because we are creating a curriculum,
Yeah.
we cannot allow ourselves to have incongruency or gray areas like you were saying within our content, because then you're confusing the student.
Yeah.
Like if we say one thing in one course and another thing in another course, well, it doesn't make sense. So then the students doesn't know, okay, so what's the truth? Where, like,
Yeah.
where do we go? And then if there's some dissimilarity, well, there needs to be a reason why, and that needs to be explained so that it's understood. For example, the only thing that is not the same as everything else in our entire curriculum is the periodization model used with, well, the application of the same periodization model used for this hypertrophy and fat loss specialization. This use a different approach in determining the undulating periodization, but we explain why, and we make sense of why. So it's not just this random different thing where
It's just different for the sake of being
yeah,
different.
it's different because it has to, and then it's explained why, and then when you understand why and you can tie it into the rest, then you understand that it's like the rest. It's just a different, it's hard to explain, just a different way to look at it.
Yeah, it's not random. There's nothing random. Steph doesn't like random.
Random stuff. So, but everything is tied in, but there's a reason for everything, but that's why it's so hard, because it's really been important for us the whole time to be creating a curriculum. And what was hard is we almost shot ourselves in the foot from the get-go, because when we started in 2016, our plan was never to have education. That just came up because people kept asking as we're building our clientele. And then I'm like, okay, well, we'll do a course. So I wanted to do this course where, like, I was basically showing everything I knew all at once in 2 days to people. And that became a SPD. But quickly we realized that a high percentage of the students were a little overwhelmed by all of the information.
There were few back in the days that it was like, holy shit, now I see everything.
Yeah.
But a lot, it was way too much
But it
information.
was basically those people who first came to our courses were seasoned, like, you know, people, trainers that had been in it for a while, who had taken a lot of courses and couldn't put it together. So they got great benefit. But as we evolved, we got more newer and fresher coaches, and then that was like too much information, because I mean it was advanced ASPD, so we had to break it down.
That's the thing. You name courses for a reason. So it's called Advanced Strategies to Program Design. So we assume that the clientele who would come would
be advanced, but no.
But it was not the case. So we needed to readjust, and then COVID happened, and the whole London course, and you know, like, so we needed to readjust. So when we decided to basically break down ASPD into online courses, well, we broke it down into the three foundational courses. So it made the information way more absorbable.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with naming courses, if you had it called it basic strategies to program design,
No
one
one
would show
would
up.
show
It has to be advanced. That's what people want.
we're not
But again,
basic.
we're not bullshitters, so it's so hard, because sometimes you just throw in one of those words and then people are more interested in it, despite like whatever the content. We've learned over the years, no one reads the descriptions we spend time reading. No one really pays attention to what they're coming. They sign up based on whatever the topic is, and if you throw in those advanced or comprehensive words, that's what's going to get them. But
Oh, we even had a guy who signed up for a course and he didn't even know that was the topic that like, he comes into the course, we start the topic, he's like, oh, I didn't know that. That's what was being taught.
Did you not read?
The dates work.
So then the strength preparation, it's only PAB within that course, and then we go to the advanced strength specialty. And within the advanced strength specialty, we have the maximal strength specialization, power specialization, specialty technique course, and the comprehensive periodization and program design. And it does make sense because advanced strength, like it's becoming our biggest specialty, but it is our thing. Like it's what we do the most. And even going back to the level 1, and this is my constant argument with myself and our education right now, is how I believe the level 1 should be map, program design, periodization. Because the optimizing strength ratios, for us, it's part of level 1 because we believe in having long-term clients and training them a very long time. So you do need the optimizing strength ratios, but it's becoming one of those things where the majority of our students, it takes a really long time to have those clients that you can then apply the optimizing strength ratios. So for some, the optimizing strength ratios seems like it should fall under the advanced strength, but no, it is still foundational. But within the advanced strength, that is our specialty, is the strength training. That's our favorite thing. You love talking about those topics. So it makes sense it's becoming the heaviest specialty.
But there's a reason for this though. So yes, it's advanced. Yes, the majority of your clients are not going necessarily to need the really advanced stuff. But we are a education company and we have a extensive curriculum. So in my head, I wanted to basically create a university degree in terms of course content to further the knowledge of personal trainers and coaches. Now, are there more humans in the world that have elementary school degrees or university degrees? Elementary.
Yeah.
So of course, the vast majority of people you're ever going to deal with, they'll be fine with the elementary school stuff. So of course, you don't need to talk about PhD content with somebody who's still stuck in the elementary school level. But if you want to be a better coach, eventually you need to start learning the more advanced stuff for the situations in which eventually you will get people who need the university stuff in order to progress. So if you're a trainer and your aspirations are simply to train Gen Pop twice a week, then that's it. Then it's just like health and fitness. The level 1 is fine.
Yeah.
But if you have, like, so when I was a young coach, my ultimate goal was to train professional athletes. So from early on, I went on and tried to learn everything I could, as deep as I could, in the case it would happen. And then guess what? In 2005, I had the opportunity to get a job training pro athlete. So I was happy I actually learned and got the background to be able to have the job to do it.
Yeah.
But if I was like, I don't need to learn that stuff because right now I'm just training Gen Pop, I would have never had that opportunity. So at one point, that's why we have an extensive curriculum. Are we saying that each and every one of your clients will need the 16 courses that we have? No. But you're a trainer, you're a coach, you're a professional. So maybe it would be at your advantage to know as much as you can in terms of program design and periodization, to have all the tools for every situation.
And even on a personal level, as a coach, you would aspire to do more than what your average client would do. So learning that information, applying it to yourself will just make you, more of a Jedi trainer than if you just stick with the basics.
But even just understanding the advanced stuff to a greater degree, I think gives coaches a better perspective on the basic shit. Because if you think the basics are the be all and end all, and then all of a sudden basics start to seem advanced to the client you're playing with, so you're regressing them even further. But then if you go and learn really advanced shit, and then you're like, oh, actually, these are the basics for a reason, because if they're ever going to get here, they need to master the basics. That needs to be second nature, so they can keep progression. Whereas if the height of your knowledge is just, all right, this is what everyone should do, and we're going to manipulate these few variables, you're always limited. You've no bigger picture. It's sort of like thinking, like America is the world. No, like there's a bigger world out there. There's more to see. So it's
Yeah, for sure. but
I brought
I
I fucked up. That's
but that's what's interesting though, because once you, I like, because I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm always learning, and I find that it's only once my knowledge was at a certain point that I realized that I didn't fully understand the basic.
Yeah.
And at that point, when I realized that I did not fully understand the basic, now I started improving my implementation of the basic, and then the results of my clients improved. Although I was still implementing the basics simply because I understood its implementation better. And good example of this is, well, understand, like, because when you understand how the central nervous system works and how motor unit recruitment works and how rate coding works and inter and intramuscular coordination work, when you fully understand this, then you understand even more why the selection of a certain rep scheme is important, why you should use this rep scheme and why you should use this rep scheme, and why you should load a certain way and why you shouldn't load a certain way. And all this stuff seems so boring and basic that most entry-level coach disregard this because it feels like it's just basic stuff, and they want to learn the crazy, like the flywheel stuff and all that kind of stuff, because that's the cool advanced stuff. But then they completely misuse or misinterpret very basic concept like loading, which means that their clients are going to stay novices for way longer, and because of this, it's gonna take way longer before they can actually use the cool stuff that they feel that their clients should use. So it's kind of like a double edged sword, like that whole education stuff. You need to understand the basic, but then you need to understand the advanced so you can better the basic.
Yeah.
But at the end, the basic trumps everything.
And optimizing strength ratios, that's that in between though, because it is basic and it is something that coaches should be paying attention to once you're training people 3-4 times a week, because you don't want someone to have this massive discrepancy in strength. So to be able to focus on those.
So one way you can look at our foundation bundle, and then I'll add in the MAP assessment to it, is so you have the program design at the core. And the program design helps you set up a training session and a training week in a very systematic fashion, which means that you're leaving no stones unturned in terms of exercise selection, motor patterns, to make sure you're touching everything in an optimized fashion in terms of stressor and recovery and fatigue management, so that everything is optimized, so everything can somewhat linearly improve. So that's the program design. And of course, then we have basics of sets, reps, tempo, rest. Cool. Now, the MAP assessment, now it allows you to qualify the level of that exercise. So if we're talking about the squat, so we know that squat is basically our lower body one primary exercise movement. But in the program design course, for simplicity's sake, we call it squat. But like you said, Alex, a lot of clients cannot necessarily do a Olympic style back squat, feet on the floor with a barbell behind their back right from the get-go. But we still want the client to do a squat. So now the MAP assessment comes in to gauge and help qualify what kind of squat is needed for that client. So if you lack dorsiflexion, well, okay, we need heel elevation. If your hips are tight as hell, well, now we need to really, really elevate the heels to clear up space at the hip joint. So, okay, so now, but we're not doing a bunch of like isolated, useless assessment to try to deter. We're doing the movement. Oh, this looks like crap, let's try this.
Yeah.
This still looks like crap,
Yeah.
let's try that. That's step number 3. Oh, this still looks like crap. Now let's keep the heels elevated, but now let's front load. that still looks like gravity. Now, okay, heels elevated, let's front low, but let's bring the low closer to the center of mass. Oh, now it looks good, okay. So now this is your squat right now for you. And then we have a progression that leads to the barbell back squat. So that's cool, that's one thing. But now, as you keep going and as you keep training, the optimizing strength ratio is still foundational in the sense that now at that point, it allows you instead to randomly prescribe exercises or microcycle structure throughout your programming. This allows you to now have a way to target limiting factors to improve overall balance and overall development in these primary movement patterns. So it's like all of these work together, but they're all complementary, but they're all used for the one thing, which is to improve all of these primary movement so that the client can increase hypertrophy and mass, but in a harmonious fashion without leading to crazy balance discrepancies between these different motor patterns. But at the end of the day, all of this is still foundational. Okay, we're not talking about like crazy increase in like power or crazy increase in hypertrophy. We're just talking about very sound, balanced, well-organized programming that fits your client's needs.
Which is then going back to the advanced strength specialty, then that's where you find the maximal strength specialization and the power specialization courses online. And those did start as in-person courses. It's always funny because those weren't very popular.
No.
They're popular online because now people see max strength and power and they can take them online, but overall there's not a lot of trainers that necessarily are thinking they can apply the max strength and power with clients.
Yeah, it was incredibly not popular as a live course, although to me they were one of my favorite courses. But yeah, I get it. It was too niche of a topic for a live course. We put it online, so now we have the entire planet that can actually access. So although it's still niche, we just open up the amount of people that could access it. So it makes sense on that account. But those are advanced because at one point, to keep increasing strength, well, you'll need to specialize and understand the nuances of max strength, and to further enhance strength, you'll need to specialize and understand the nuances of power development, because at one point there's a limit to how much strength you can actually gain with transferable benefits. So at one point you need to swing the pendulum to power to reinforce strength later on. But that's why both of these are under the advanced strength specialty. Whereas now the specialty technique, that needed to be a course as well, because this is mentioned in the foundation, but it was just never really expanded in the foundation because we felt it would be too much information. So now we presented the concept, we gave a few examples in the foundation, but now if you want to specialize, now we have like 60 something like specialty technique that we cover across all different modalities. And then it's the same with the comprehensives. So yeah, we have the foundation periodization structure. That's the core of what we do most of the time. But now if you're dealing with the advanced crowd, you need a broader spectrum of periodization models to help you reach your goals. And these are all models that we've used, but we just didn't see the sense of talking about them in the foundation and then diluting the information, confusing the students instead of sticking to one thing that works for the vast majority of people. So do that, it works, perfected and perfected and perfected, and then eventually, okay, now do the comprehensive so you have a more well-rounded understanding of multiple periodization models and concepts so you can apply to further enhance the development of your clients.
Yeah, because like both the comprehensive, the program design and periodization, they are comprehensive in the fact that they have a regression from the foundation and progression from the foundation. So they're just covering a broader spectrum of clients that they're applicable for, but the foundation's still there because it's going to apply to the vast majority of people. So it's one of those that that's what is actually my favorite part of the comprehensive, is that there is the regression part as well, because that's somewhat catches people that will off guard, because they're always expecting it just to be more and more advanced. But no, like, we can go both ways, because what fits the vast majority of people obviously isn't going to fit the most remedial people, and it's not going to fit the most advanced people. So let's cover it all, and then really hone in on the factors that's going to help benefit these trainees as much as possible.
This might be a good time to tell people again, like, those are comprehensive, and they're very, very comprehensive. So please do the please do the level 1 bundles before you.
Kelsey sends an email with
and a coupon and like, here, do this. It's like, it makes a huge difference, because we've seen some people who've never done any of our courses come to that class and be so overwhelmed that they can't even ask a question, because it's just like, it's too much information.
On the same side, you have the students who have went so hard in the curriculum on that they've studied with us, that now, because this is
slightly different,
that also
yeah
screw
so
them
just
up.
like, but you definitely do it, and we struggle with that. We're creating a prerequisite for that course, because you'll just get it better if you have the foundation.
Because like technically everything is taught within that course, that you could understand everything as it's laid out. It's just so much information coming in with the background understand, so you're not trying to absorb everything in one go, and you're just trying to add to what you already know. Makes a huge difference.
It's like when we taught the comprehensive program periodization in Lyon last year in France. Like 85% of the class were CrossFit people, and they've never done any kilo thing. So the base of the base of the base, they didn't even understand. Like when we wrote A series, B series, C series on the slide, they raised their hand. There's like, well, what's that? So there's only 3 exercises in the, like, so they didn't even know that. So it's like, okay, wow, okay. So now we're going to have to backtrack and explain these hyper basic stuff in a
And the only reason we did that is because it was the large majority of the course that was at that point, because we can't do that if you come to a course and you're not at, because that's not what we're here to teach. So we can't normally break it down further, because that's not what the people paid for and why they're showing up. But it was like, in that scenario, it was the majority of the students, and we had to take a step back quickly to get them somewhat on the same page.
They didn't know what a rep scheme was.
Because they wouldn't have gotten anything. Like sometimes, and that's the beauty of being in a live course too, like you see the majority of people, it's like going over their head. Well, there's no point in keeping going forward with just all the complicated stuff. Just take a little step back so that you can let those people like catch up. But we were able to do that because it was a small group. But in a big group, you're like, too bad, you're gonna have to go back and like.
Moving on from the advanced strength specialty, we have the body composition specialty. And within there, we have the online hypertrophy specialization, online fat loss specialization, and then in-person body composition seminar. And this is one that if you go back on like the history of Kilo, there's a lot of development there, because it originally started as the 5-day body composition training camp. So that was mainly fat loss.
That was the fat loss, because we had a hypertrophy one too.
Yeah,
body
then
comp
we
was
had the hypertrophy course.
5 days.
And then it's developed over the years now, where now we have this online hypertrophy specialization and the online body composition, and then an in-person body composition seminar. And that in-person body composition seminar is again just seeing like what we saw to add into our curriculum as a different approach to body composition training that ties more directly into our system versus the outliers of the specialization phases.
Yeah, so this one, okay, that's a tough one, because the 2 specialization, I'm really, these, I have to say, these are probably the 2 courses I'm the most happy that they're online now. No, but simply because these, like, what we believe in is the standards, the foundational
Yeah.
strength training. That's what we do, but we also dealt with situations where we needed to specialize on fat loss or specialize on hypertrophy. If you're training physique people, or if you're training someone who has like a wedding
Ready
or
for
something.
a wedding yet?
Okay, so in these situations, we use these models, but these models are different than our foundational strength training because we're really just trying to milk as much as we can this one target. But what was a little bit annoying is the only people who truly understand how we dealt with those were the people who came to our live courses. So what started to happen as we're growing, we would see students either posting or asking questions about the hypertrophy or fat loss, but with their interpretation of what they learned with the foundational stuff. So they knew that we did undulating with fat loss, but they didn't understand how we did it. So they would use the exact same periodization structure as the periodization online course, but for fat loss, not understanding that it made no sense whatsoever and it was messing up the entire. So now I'm happy that it's online because now it expanded the information or the knowledge of how we deal with it to a much wider range of people. So now there's not as much confusion as before, but we had to use a different approach to set up our undulating periodization because the demands and natures of these training programs are so different than classic intensity and volume doesn't work. It just doesn't apply. And then now it evolved to the point where now people were starting to think that these two specialized, that's why it's called specialization, but we're starting to think that those were the only ways we would deal with hypertrophy or fat loss. No, these are specializations. Now that's why we have the body comp course, which like Kelsey said, it's a course to improve body composition. So body composition is a combination of decreased fat storage and increased muscle mass. So how can we do this in the context of foundational strength training without this necessarily being this crazy 12-week specialization that can potentially lead to decrease in strength that is detached from the rest of the training? Because there are ways that the results might not be as drastic on one end of the body comp spectrum, but overall you'll have a much more favorable body comp outcome from this than regular strength training, but the context and model fits in the regular strength training.
And it's going to be a lot easier applied with some like really stressed out clients that throwing them into specialization is just going to tank their recovery even more. So it'd be a good like, all right, someone wants improved body composition. All right, we'll try, and they've got a strength base. Let's try this model first, like the body composition live seminar model. And like, oh, they got good results. They responded really well. Now, if they want to specialize in one or the other, now would be a good opportunity to increase those stressors. But just to jump in off the bat of someone who's sleeping 4 hours a night and not have their under eating and doing all that there, and it's a skinny fat person, it might just be too much to jump straight into specialization. So it's another bridge into that.
And us at the end of the day, we're a huge fan of strength.
Yeah.
Like we believe in strength being the thing. So it's just cool because that body comp, you will improve body comp, but you can actually increase strength in the process as opposed to the other, especially the fat loss. The fat loss, unless you're a true novice, which I don't even recommend a true novice. Well, a true novice would do the novice version of that course, but like you will lose strength. That's the one downside. You will lose strength. It's too volume based and metabolic driven to not lose strength.
And then the final specialty within our curriculum is the sports performance specialty. And within the sports performance, we have the athlete off-season assessment course and the sports performance seminar. And the sports performance seminar is definitely, we were talking about it, the one that the content has changed over the years. And again, that was dictated heavily by the students who were coming for the courses, and the information originally taught didn't necessarily apply to what they were dealing with their clients that were athletes.
Yeah, so I mean, the original sports performance course, which was called sports training camp or
Sports specific.
Sports
which that
specific
was the
training
thing, yeah.
camp.
It's 5 days.
It was 5 days, but it was very based off of what I did as a coach,
As a one-on-one.
as a one-on-one coach.
Mhm.
But I was extremely fortunate because in my career, especially with the Rams and the
Cardinals.
the NFL and the baseball MLB guys, is I was able to control the programming the entire season. And my favorite sport is American football, and I train a bunch of NFL, and the NFL had a long, extended off season. So a lot of it was built off of a longer off season. Whereas when I train NHL guys, they have a very short off season, especially if they make it all the way in the playoff. So, but it was very long-term slanted. And the more I taught it, the more I'm realizing not only do most trainers deal with short off season, a lot of them are also dealing with not professional athletes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So all the concepts are the same. It's all the same thing, but we just readjusted the course to fit a broader range of clients. So from high school to college to pros.
Yeah.
But it really is built to fit within a 8 to 12 or 16 week off season.
Yeah.
And that's it. We don't talk about the pre-competitive phase. We don't talk about the in-season in that course. It's very specific. Okay, you're a private sector trainer. You have high school, college, or pro athlete coming to you for the off season. You're selling your off season package. Boom, here's what you do. You do the assessment. And again, just like the map or assessment is no fluff, straight to the point, all very targeted information that will dictate the periodization and program design.
Yeah.
No bullshit stuff that doesn't apply.
Mhm.
And then the periodization model, which is a reflection of the testing. You have all the options, and then you have the sequencing, and then you have the specialty techniques involved, and on and on and on. So I honestly, I think it's my favorite course we have.
It's
Tab
always
is
been your favorite
pretty
course.
cool too, but no, the sports always has been, but like I love the way
Mhm.
we were able to streamline it.
Yeah.
Because now it's a 2-day course.
Yeah.
It's a 2-day course, which is why we had to do the assessment online, because just the assessment took about 2
in the
days
gym
almost.
it did, yeah.
It took 2 days in the gym. So now the assessment is online. So now we have 2 days
Get to really, and then the
to
specialty
really dive
techniques.
into the information. But I just think we did a really, really good job at streamlining the content. So it's really, really targeted straight to the point.
Yeah. Because like in the end of the day, like most people deal with the off season only. Like you were definitely in a unique position dealing with the entire duration of this season. So when you were teaching that, I think it probably took the guts of a day to do your in-season periodization and program design talk. It's like, okay, there's a day that we can get back to dedicate more information to the point that 99% of the trainers are dealing with anyway. So it was like, all right, is it really cool information? Yes, definitely. But if it's not applicable to the coaches coming into the seminar, it's taken away from information we could be delivering. So it's really turned into a really good streamlined course, that one.
Yeah, in the education, our focus is always to help the students that are coming to courses. We have consultations, we have online mentorships, we have in-person mentorships that you can do, that if you're seeing within our curriculum, you need more tailored guidance for your specific clientele.
But it's interesting, like building content, right? Because at first, you're always biased at building courses on what you like
Yeah.
and what you think is high impact. So for example, because I come more from a performance background, training athletes, I've always been fascinated with power. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. But when we had our 5-day courses in 2017, we had the body comp, the hypertrophy, we had strength,
Primate, yeah. Strength is
primate,
yeah.
we had sports, and then we had power. 5-day power. Porik was the only student. He's the only student that registered.
But a lot of people regret not coming to that one now because Boris sitting in that chair.
Yeah, but that's when I knew he was for real. Okay, so he's the only one coming for power because he understands that.
And he came
Power
from
is
Ireland.
Yeah, he came from Ireland, 5 days to California to learn about power alone. But so guess what happened to the power course? It was taught once and then it disappeared. Like I'm not
For a
going.
few years.
Yes.
Yeah, like I'm not going to do another course with one person coming in.
Yeah.
But now, I'm like I had to. Like I love power. So then we came up with the speed strength intensive.
Well, then we purposely didn't call it power.
There's no
Yeah, so that's why we call it speed strength. We'll take the cooler old school term, call it speed strength intensive, which was 3 days, right? 2 days.
Enhanced those two.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It was 2 days. But again, nobody came. I think the most we had was like
8.
8.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm like, okay, well, that needs to disappear. So that's why that's online now. But so that's the problem too. Like people always, you guys should do this course. Yeah, but I'm not gonna do a course for 4 people.
Yeah.
Like sometimes the topics that are suggested are so niche. But even another good course that to us was crucial to be a good trainer
applied exercise
was
technique.
the applied exercise technique
Yeah.
that we did in 2018.
We did it twice.
We did it twice,
I did that one as well.
and
Those had people
Those had a decent amount of
it
Yeah.
had people.
because of the San Francisco people.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of them came from that one gym, and they're different. Like
Yeah.
they think
Yeah.
but in
No,
a
they
good
do.
way.
Yeah,
they,
no.
they think differently than the average student that we have. So they were all in. They came to these courses, but that top and let's be really honest here. Kilo Strength Society, we're trying really hard to cater to the
Personal
to the
trainers.
female market more, but we're 85% male, 15% female. And the problem with the male crowd is most male trainers, they all think they know everything about exercise technique.
Yeah.
So the applied exercise technique was definitely more
Female.
female. We always had way more women coming to this course. But that's the thing, we don't have a lot of women students or women followers. So to keep having courses that doesn't attract people, even though it's a great course that we feel everybody should do, it doesn't make sense on a business perspective.
And we can tell that people, when they come to our courses, a lot of the students, we have to correct their technique. And we have a special, not necessarily that special, but like, the way we do lunges and split squats and stuff, like we have to correct them a lot on those type of things.
Well, yeah, but it's not that our thing is special, but it's like
But it's just the way
the technique we use on movements are used for a very specific reason for the context of our training. So I always say it, like, because, like in the last 6 years, there's been this huge trend of doing your split squat, like leaning forward to have more glute, whatever. Okay, cool. So if that's your goal with the training, do this. But if you come to a kilo course, we want a split squat with a perpendicular, an upright torso perpendicular to the floor, because the reason why we use a split squat has nothing to do with having a glute bias. So we want that position because that position emphasizes the vastus medialis and the rec fem and hip flexor stretch, and that's what we're looking to get from that movement to translate to a better back squat. That's all it is. So sometimes it's not even a question of this is wrong and this is good.
Yeah.
It's more a question of like,
Why-
well, this is
why we
wrong
do
in the
this.
context
Yeah.
of why we're doing this in this program.
Yeah, like another example you always see these days is the step up, like
Mhm.
real forward lean,
Yeah.
arm one side's being supported to create more stability. For to really bias the glutes, nothing wrong with it. It's just never how we're going to
Yeah.
prescribe the step up. We'll use something else in that situation instead.
And
Yeah.
we'd call it something
Something
else
else,
if we
but-
were to ever
Yeah.
use something like that.
Yeah, so it's just we let the exercise do the job that we
Or
emphasize,
we
like,
want,
we
yeah.
want it to do, and not
Mhm.
try and manipulate the exercise just to bias the muscle. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's stuff there.
I'm going to wrap up the episode by reading a chunk of text that's actually on our website, but again, it kind of summarizes everything we've talked on this podcast episode. And as we mentioned, a lot of people don't necessarily actually take the time to read, so I'm going to read it here. So in summary, our curriculum is meticulously designed to ensure every component connects seamlessly, creating a unified and purposeful learning experience. Each course builds on the knowledge and skills taught in the others, ensuring that everything ties together in a logical, impactful way. We have poured immense thought, care, and attention into every element of our program to provide a foundation that coaches can rely on as a launchpad for their professional growth. At the heart of all of our education lies our specialty, program design and periodization. These are not just topics we cover, but the core of everything we teach. From the fundamentals to the most advanced levels, every lesson reinforces your ability to create detailed, effective, and adaptable training programs. Our aim is to empower you with the tools and knowledge to master program structure and planning so you can confidently drive results for your clients. Each course builds upon the concepts and skills taught in the others, giving you a clear and purposeful path toward mastery. It's a system backed by dedication, input from real students, and relentless attention to detail. We have the quote, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." So that summarizes everything we've done within our education, and moving forward, we still have more plans. We will have more online courses. We're really focusing on taking advantage of the community we've built and collaborating with the students we have within our community, because we have built something very special over the last 9 years, and our education is extremely comprehensive. So moving forward, it will just be a continuation of everything we've mentioned on this podcast, and really, as much as we niche ourselves, we talk about how niche we are, I do find that everything we teach can be extremely beneficial for all personal trainers and strength coaches within our industry. That was a good one. Trainkilo.com for all of our courses, and yes, they are all NSCA and NASM approved.